The minister will share all that we learned in the appropriate moment. That was 16 days ago. You've indicated the process by which you've disclosed this 5-page document to committee, literally 20 minutes before the commencement. In my former career as a Crown attorney, if I tried to pull something like this in front of a judge, I would get a severe tongue lashing. This is not procedural fairness. This is highly, highly suspicious in terms of the timing by which you release that.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah.
Hey gang, what's up? Just Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. How did two immigrants with histories with some terrorist organizations in their propaganda videos end up being allowed in our country? We have Frank Caputo, Melissa Lansman, Larry Brock trying to get to the bottom of it. It's very interesting. These committee videos always are. Let's take a look and a listen at what's going on today in committee. This one happened just this morning. Let's take a look.
Start our questions with Mr. Caputo. 6 minutes, please, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister, for being here. And I echo your sentiments where you thank our security services and responders for foiling what sounds like it would have been a serious terrorist attack that would have impacted Canadians. Now, Minister, to be clear here, this person who is charged with terrorism offenses with his son, he arrived in February of 2018, correct? I'm going off the information you gave me, Minister.
Yes, in February 5th, 2018, the subject entered Canada at Pearson Airport.
And he made an asylum claim in June of 2018, correct?
Yes, he went to an immigration department office and made that asylum claim.
And he was granted citizenship in May of 2024, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And provided a work permit in September of 2018. That was that was the initial basis on which he was able to legally be in Canada. Is that right?
Yes, that appears correct from the chronology before the committee.
Okay. Permanent resident of September of 2021. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Now, you wrote me a letter on August 12th of this year stating none of this. So I'm just going to note here for the record that you said, Minister, that we couldn't comment on any of this, and then lo and behold, here today we have this vast chronology that has appeared just before committee. It seems odd that you would say you couldn't give us any of this information, and that here today we have all of this information from you. What we have here, Minister, is obviously a colossal failure. I'll be direct. How did somebody slide under the radar for so long, 2018 to 2024?
So just with respect to your initial comment, you're right. In August, I thought it was important, and I asked, as did my colleague Mark Miller, our officials to produce the detailed chronology. So I wanted to make sure that when we came to this committee and are able to talk about this publicly, we had the precise chronology that we could all rely on.
That's not what you said in your letter, though, sir. You said in your letter that there was an ongoing investigation, and yet here we have this information. I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on how did this person fly under the radar for 6 years?
So this person entered Canada on the dates that you described, Mr. Caputo, and as are reflected in the chronology. The security services, CBSA, CSIS, and the Immigration Department did all of the existing security checks and the normal security checks, and including biometrics by the RCMP on a number of occasions. And there was, at the time that those decisions were made, no information that would have come to light to trigger what happened earlier this spring in terms of CSIS's investigation.
In fact, we actually had to hear from a foreign government about this. Isn't that right? That CSIS got information from a foreign government has been reported by Global?
You have been, Mr. Caputo, at this committee for some time. You know that the intelligence agencies are not going to ever discuss the sources of intelligence or information they get from partner agencies. First of all, it may be illegal to disclose that, but it's also very dangerous to the women and men who do that work, either at CSIS or in their partner agencies, to confirm the sources of this information. So I'm not able to give a definitive answer on that question, and you know that very well.
Equally as troubling as that answer is the fact that we as Canadians did not have this intelligence for ourselves. How is it that foreign governments know more than we do on Canadian soil?
I don't accept the premise of that comment. Every intelligence agency collaborates with partners around the world. The most effective and the most renowned intelligence cooperation would be the Five Eyes countries, of which, as you know, Canada is a member. And the information is shared between these security services on an hourly and daily basis, precisely because it makes our country safer, but we can also contribute and do often, and the great work done by CSIS, to the security of our partner countries as well. So that's a very normal security process that you understand very well.
With all due respect, Minister, you need to stop deflecting and start divulging. At this point here, you're saying, you're not even confirming it. How is it that a foreign government knew more than we did in Canada about somebody that was on Canadian soil for 6 years? How is that?
But, Mr. Caputo, perhaps I wasn't clear in the previous answer. You understand very well, and I'm happy to ask the interim director of CSIS to explain the reasons why it is inappropriate, if not illegal, to answer questions around specific intelligence products. And more so because this is an ongoing criminal case. Some of this evidence, the prosecutors in their judgment may decide to bring before a court, before a jury at some future prosecution.
I'm not talking about the evidence. I'm talking about how the evidence was gathered. How is it that a foreign government knew more than our own government? That's what I'm talking about, not the evidence, sir. At the end of the day, this is what we have. We have somebody that came in here and was here for 6 years flying under the radar. We don't know whether this happened before, and we have no assurances from you whether or not this will happen again. You've deflected, you've diverted, and you've denied, and that is absolutely inexcusable to this point. Canadians deserve answers, and we are getting none. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Caputo. The minister can answer if he wishes.
Mr. Caputo can repeat those phrases and those words. It doesn't make them true. What you have here, Mr. Chair, is a case where 2 individuals were arrested and are now in custody facing 9 very serious criminal charges. This was a situation that could have presented a serious risk to the safety of Canadians, and CSIS and the RCMP and other police partners did phenomenal work. I am fortunate enough as the Minister of Public Safety, as I said, to be updated, to be briefed from time to time on some of these significant cases. That was the case for me on July 24th, and 4 days later, these people were in police custody. So I saw up close the very effective work that the RCMP, CSIS, and others did. So the premise that somehow this person flew under the radar, this person was arrested and is facing criminal charges and is in jail before any risk was presented to Canadians. And that's exactly the kind of work that we rely on our police services, the RCMP, and their partners like CSIS to do every day. And I'm proud of that work.
Thank you, Minister. We're going to questions now with Ms. Lansman. Please go ahead, 5 minutes.
Minister, I'm going to jump right in my questions because you've had a month to answer these questions. But you said in your opening statement, I'm going to quote you, "This is the way that the investigative and national security system should work." Your government issued a visa to somebody who was allegedly in a 2015 ISIS propaganda video, who then planned a mass casualty event outside of Toronto with a target in our city, in our country's largest city. The RCMP foiled that plot with intelligence from the French. Are you really telling Canadians that that's how our system should work? He's been here for 6 years.
Mr. Chair, what I'm saying to Canadians is that the moment the government of Canada became aware of concerning information regarding this individual, all of the appropriate steps were put in place by CSIS and the RCMP, which culminated in the arrest on the 28th of July. And thank God, as Ms. Lansman said, the potential serious risk or violence was averted. With respect to the information regarding the immigration processing, The Immigration Department will be here later and are in a position to speak to the specific steps that an applicant, whether for asylum or permanent residency, and we're looking at the security check system, the
Minister,
security
by my
verification
count, there's
system.
about 6 security checks in the documents that you dumped on this committee 50 minutes before it started. Do you really think that the system is working if somebody like this, who's an alleged ISIS terrorist, who, if he was even a little bit more productive, would have resulted in mass casualties in Toronto? Do you really think that that's how the system should work? Do you really think that this is not a colossal failure of your government?
I am very proud of the work that the RCMP and CSIS did in thwarting this particular case. I think, as Mr. Gallivan indicated, if you look at the tens and hundreds of thousands of these cases that are reviewed every year as people seek asylum, submit asylum claims, or apply for various visas, we necessarily rely on the work of our security agencies. We're always looking at ways to strengthen and evolve that posture as the threat context, as Ms. Lloyd said, evolves. But in this case, I am satisfied that when the Government of Canada was aware or could possibly have been aware of this information, all of the steps were taken.
They were aware 6 years ago when he came in. And speaking of that, we heard speculation,
Ms.
though.
Lansman, you can't assert something like that if you're.
He's been here for 6 years. It's just a known fact from your own documents.
But you said to assert that people were aware of some information that came to light recently 6 years ago is wrong.
There is speculation that he was brought in under the Syrian refugee program. Is this correct, yes or no?
I'm not sure I can speculate on the particular immigration status and program, and I'm not sure what part of that might be subject to the criminal trial, but you could certainly ask the Immigration Department that question.
Do you believe that if he was brought under this, if he was brought in through this stream, the government promised increased screening on asylum seekers in this country? Do you believe that after everything we know today, that your government is doing its job on that?
But again, I don't want to give credence to the premise that you ask because I don't have that information, so I want to be very precise that you don't link his arrival to a particular immigration program. The Immigration Department, I think, can provide you with those facts. I don't have them, but I don't want, in answering your question, to appear to confirm that because I don't have that information. I am satisfied that both the security services and the RCMP with the Immigration Department have in place a series of rigorous screening and background checks that take place. You heard Ted talk about biometric screening, 6 different databases. We heard the interim director of CSIS talk about 300 agreements, 150 different countries. We have access to a great amount of information to keep Canadians safe, and we need to make sure that that information is used in the most expeditious way possible.
This person was brought into Canada 6 years before a terrorist plot was foiled, just days before they would have killed people in Toronto. And you're telling Canadians that you're satisfied with the screening processes in place.
As I said in my opening comments, this person and the nature of the allegations which ultimately led to the investigation and arrest came to our attention in June. And this person from that point on was obviously under the appropriate surveillance to ensure that any threat was mitigated and led to the ultimate arrest on the 28th of July.
How can
Thank you, Ms. Lansman. We go now to Mr. Caputo on a point of order.
Yes, thank you. It's been raised a number of times here that we only got access to this chronology that really should have been in our hands weeks ago. And I'm wondering, I believe that we probably have agreement from most people, but I would propose that the minister stay for 1 extra hour here, depending on his availability, because I think that there are still a number of questions to be answered. And we are also not hearing from the Minister of Immigration this week, which was part of our motion, and we haven't had an explanation for that either. Thank you.
Well, Minister LeBlanc doesn't answer to that question. That's for us. We did invite Mr. Miller, but he was unavailable. So I have an understanding that the minister can stay for a short while longer. I had envisioned 2 more 5-minute
Mr.
slots.
McKinnon, you may have the wrong understanding. I'm happy to be here. I agreed to come for 1 hour. I am leaving on a flight for New Brunswick, going almost straight to the airport with one stop at the Public Safety Department to sign a particular document. And I'm going to be spending tomorrow morning getting my monthly immunoglobulin treatment to boost my immune system, which I get. I don't intend to miss that, and I don't intend to miss the flight. So that being said, I'm happy to take a few more questions, but I cannot stay an hour. I've been an opposition MP too. I get exactly what Mr. Caputo is doing. We've certainly released all of the documents the moment they were prepared by the justice officials, and that we could rely on them. So there's certainly no attempt to wait. The documents had to be translated. We wanted to, of course, respect that rule. But I don't know, Mr. Chair, if there is another few minutes. But I see that we're over 11 o'clock, and I will have to leave very shortly.
Thank you, Minister. So to finish the second round, we would do one more 5-minute question from the Conservatives and one from the Liberals. Would you be able to say for 10 more minutes?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. That being the case, we'll go with Mr. Brock for 5 minutes.
Minister, 2 weeks ago, actually 16 days ago, the Prime Minister notified Canada that his government is taking the case very seriously. He secondly said this is a very serious situation, that you, sir, as the Minister of Public Safety, would be doing a full follow-up to understand exactly how this happened. The Minister will share all that we learned in the appropriate moment. That was 16 days ago. You've indicated the process by which you've disclosed this 5-page document to committee, literally 20 minutes before the commencement. In my former career as a Crown attorney, if I tried to pull something like this in front of a judge, I would get a severe tongue lashing. This is not procedural fairness. This is highly, highly suspicious in terms of the timing by which you release that. So, moving on. I too want to talk about the video, the notorious video from 2015. According to Global News, they easily obtained a copy of that. It appeared to match the one that resulted in the aggravated assault charge that the RCMP recently laid. It shows a prisoner wearing an orange jumpsuit and suspended from a pole in a desert. A man wearing a black robe and a cap bearing the ISIS logo then hacks at the prisoner's limbs with a sword, cutting off his hands, cutting off his feet. His face briefly visible, he appears to be a middle-aged man with a henna-tinted beard. It is unclear whether the victim was already dead when he was dismembered. The video, titled "Deterring Spies," was published in June 2015 by the media arm of the ISIS branch in western Iraq, according to an expert. Now, we know that Mr. El-Didi received his citizenship in September 2023. I'm looking at the chronology under security screening note. Application was referred to CSIS for security checks in November 2023. CSIS returned a favorable recommendation. What type of message does that send to Canadians regarding our national security agency with a video that was widely distributed some 8 years previous, was not flagged against any advanced biometrics? The man's face was clearly visible. Is CSIS not tracking these videos? What other terrorists are walking the streets here in Canada right now waiting to commit terrorist acts on innocent Canadians? What the hell is going on?
So, Mr. Chair, through you to Mr. Brock, I would also think that when in your previous job as a Crown attorney, you would be commenting with the benefit of parliamentary privilege on something that you know very well may form part of an evidence, part of the evidence in an upcoming criminal trial. As the Deputy Commissioner of the RCMP said, I'm not sure you would, on the steps of a courthouse in the middle of an ongoing trial, have been as dramatic as you were for your social media clip now.
Sir,
That
Minister,
being
I am not a
said-
Crown attorney right now. I am a parliamentarian asking the tough questions that Canadians want to know. Why did our National Security Agency not flag this video 8 years prior and use the image of this terrorist, if not killer, who's dismembering limbs from the person in a pole? Why was that image not flagged against every other asylum claimant to ensure that there was adequate security checks being done? According to your note, CSIS cleared this individual, returning a favorable recommendation. How did that slip through? How did that slip through, sir?
So again, you're referring to alleged dramatic images in
It's not
the
alleged,
video.
it happened. The video is not alleged.
I think we should be careful talking about criminal evidence, but as I said in my opening comments, and Ted Gallivan is going to be able to give you some precision with respect to the video and how security screening agencies came into possession of that information. At the time when the relevant decisions were being made by the Immigration Department and the security services were doing their work, the existence of that video or the information that you have recounted to the committee now was not available. And I think Mr. Gallivan can provide some precision in terms of why that was the case.
Well, it begs the question as to why.
Mr. Brock, that's enough. I think we should let Mr. Gallivan.
Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
Oh, yeah.
My name's Aaron, this is Canadian Looney. We are learning all about Canadian federal politics. It's a blast. Sometimes it's frustrating to watch, but we are getting to learn how things work, the ebb and flow of these Liberals, the NDP coalition, that's a mess. These Conservatives seem to be standing up for Canadians, asking the questions we want answers to. Anyways, thank you for watching this video. We'll be back with more committee and other videos as well. We have a blast here on the channel learning all about Canadian federal politics, trying to share that with you. My name's Aaron. This is Canadian Looney. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, get notified, all those fun things. Please leave a comment. Love the comments. We'll catch you next video. Thank you for watching this one.